Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're looking at our Draconis heroes and looking at the Dragon Forge Trials. Now this is the very first reset that we've seen. So you can see, welcome back, highest floor was floor number 8. So we actually pushed to floor number 8, which yielded us 200 of our Dragon Bone stamps. We also did get 10 threat emblems and 6 of our scaled threat emblems. Now we're gonna go ahead and collect these. Now a lot of players were wondering what happens with the reset. So you can see we actually went through and we actually went through 1 through 5. We started at 6. And again, with the reset starting in 7 days. So this is a total reset in here, which means we have another 7 days to go through the Dragon Forge trial. And then of course, based on our progression in there, we can actually push a little bit further. Hopefully we can get to 8 or even higher to get some more resources out of here. But I'm almost wondering next week, progress will be reset to floor 5. So it seems like it's just going to be the same thing. Even looking in here, all of my preloaded teams are already in here. So I'm assuming that as we continue to build up these Draconis heroes, that we're going to be able to just go through here on a regular basis. So this is actually going to make it, in my opinion, guys, very, very easy to get through here because the majority of the floors are already done. Now, I know a lot of players were kind of talking about the time, really the time and effort that they were putting into this game mode and not really seeing a big return. So there we go. So we got some more emblems out of there. We got 3 stars now going up to 7. If I'm not building any other heroes at this point, essentially 7, you can see they already pegged us right there at 2 stars, which means that boom, we already have some rewards out of there. We can get to 8. So we're going to have to get to the point essentially just going back to 9 because I'm thinking with the same heroes that I already have in here, there's no reason this game mode shouldn't just be farmed through again. Now, of course, farm through again is with a little bit of a higher level, is with a little bit of stronger heroes. So I'm hoping again that as we're going through and making a lot of progression in this game mode, that as we get our heroes stronger, we're going to have the ability to actually perform a lot better. And I think this one's going to be a defeat, which again, this is the RNG factor that we see in here. We know based on where we have it built, where we've already seen the heroes, that we've actually built and got through this game mode or got through this stage of this game mode, which means we know it's possible. We know it's not going to be incredibly hard. Even right there, if you looked in the bottom, the emojis that they actually drop down here are pretty funny. You can see literally not even touching them. I believe that is going to be Aethys. That is doing a ton of damage in there. But I'm almost wondering with the hits on Taylene, we had to have some of the targets actually die in there. So we're going to get 2 stars, not going to do 3 stars, obviously, because somebody in Team 2 died. But you can literally set and rerun this. Now, again, what a lot of players were also saying at this point is having a way to just auto battle this, which again, in my opinion, guys, kind of defeats the point of the Dragon Forge trials, is just going in here and kind of autoing this. Because again, we're at 9, we're going to be stuck at 9. But overall, getting the rewards out of the Dragon Forge, this is the part that we really want to focus on. Now you can see we do have 200 of our rewards in there, so we could actually pick up a couple of our insignias in here. But again, I want to talk a little bit about the heroes, and I know during the live stream tomorrow, this is going to be something that's probably going to be brought up by quite a few players in our live stream. So overall, looking at the heroes that we have, and I want to hop out of here because we've kind of been building them out a little bit further. One thing to note and a few things to note is number one, a lot of players said you got to put gear on them. So I know this is kind of a null effect, or a lot of players that it's funny because we kind of talked about it and a lot of players didn't realize. My thought is looking at the heroes here, if you're building out the heroes, if you're giving them more abilities, and I don't know, I can't really deny or confirm this, but a lot of players said that if you come in here, you're building them up with collections, you're putting kind of whatever on them. So as you're building these heroes out, putting on collections, signature items, of course, their gear and everything else, this is a game changer. Now you can see all of the Draconic heroes that we have in here. It didn't equip anything on them. So literally they're not wearing anything in there, which means we could go in here with a couple collections. We could throw some collections on here. They're going to perform a lot better because of the collections we're throwing on here, because again, it's not automatically putting them on there. And then of course, this is also very, very important, is the levels, building out these heroes. Now, if you're like me, if you're like a lot of other players are actually just literally getting stuck in their entirety because we don't have food. We are stuck because of the food that we are really lacking in here. It seems like, again, incredibly difficult to get not only a lot of copies of the heroes, but the summons of the heroes to be able to get more food. You can see we only have 1 food right here, which means we probably have to do, I would say, probably 50 more summons in there to actually go out and build another Elite Plus, essentially Gorge, so we could build up a little bit further and actually getting Cassius up a little bit further. But honestly, I'm probably going to do Polina. So when I have another copy of our little Gorge, I'm going to go ahead and build out Polina a little bit. Again, because these heroes are so prevalent in that game mode, if you're building them up a little bit further, it is really, really a game changer. Now, kind of thinking of the tier list, and I want to kind of run this by, again, I know there's going to be kind of some pros and cons, is a lot of players are saying early game, looking at utility, kind of looking at the build that we're seeing within these heroes. Number one is actually coming in with Hilduin. Now, the reason is when you look at this hero, the defensive capacity that he does have, also the ability to essentially almost tank in a lot of different game modes, the shielding aspect that he has. So again, there's a really big dynamic between him being a mage and him being a intellect hero and also being kind of a support factor. So a lot of players are saying that Hilduin really is undervalued as we see him today, meaning that he's going to have a lot more utility in a lot of different game modes, especially when it comes to PvP and a couple other places. Now, overall, we know that he is not a primary damage dealer, but when you look similar to what we see with Gavis, in a lot of the support teams or in support with some of our Awakened heroes, Hilduin is making a really big difference in there, which is the reason why, again, players were kind of putting him at the very top tier. And then number two was actually coming in Polina. So Polina, the reason being, Polina has an incredible amount of utility. Now that, of course, once I get the hero built out, and unfortunately we don't have them all built, we can't test them a lot of different places, but a lot of players are saying that the way, the methodology, kind of the mechanics on how Polina works, that Polina can be dropped in almost any single formation as a damage dealer, performs exceptionally well, but does require a pretty decent build out overall for Polina to do exceptionally well. Then, of course, coming in number three is our other Highborn, which is Gwen. Gwen, of course, has a lot of crowd control, does a significant amount of damage, which is two really big factors when it comes to PvP and other game modes, making this hero and building her out very, very strong. And then a lot of players, again, coming in at number four is Cassius, that we are seeing kind of coming in again as the tank aspect. Very, very defensive damage mitigation. He's really hard to kill. That's where a lot of players are kind of getting stuck with building him out. He is a very solid tank, similar to what we see with Aethys. He is a very, very solid tank. Takes a lot to take him down, especially when you got some support behind him. If you got some essentially other heroes buffing him up within different formations. And then the final one that players are saying is Nyla, which unfortunately, as much as I love Nyla, we've seen her damage coming in very high. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like, again, a lot of players are seeing a ton of utility. And it's also interesting because when you start talking about utility and even looking at different game modes, even looking like right here, we're 94 in the Treasure Scramble, it's very interesting because even looking at the ranking, some of the higher heroes, let's use Blossom, Jigo, we use a couple of these that we kind of see on a regular basis up here. But you'll quickly notice that, boom, we're running 4 formations. There is not a single Draconis hero in the formation. Even looking on the enemy side or the opposing side, it is the exact same thing, guys. We are not really seeing a lot of utility within these heroes. And I thought we'd see it a lot faster than we are, because I know a lot of the whales, a lot of the larger players do have these heroes built. But again, not seeing a lot of utility in kind of the Treasure Scramble mode. Then, of course, going into the guild aspect, looking at our Nightmare Corridor and our Cursed Realm, we're kind of seeing the very similar thread. We're coming in here looking at the heroes and again, at this point, you do also have the trial versions in here, but you can see right here, we do have Nyla coming in, and look at the damage, guys. That is simply broken. That is the reason why I thought earlier to build her. There is our Highborn Dragon, so we're starting to see a little bit of a build. I didn't see it earlier, but it seems like the heroes are starting to find a place to go in formations, and I'm wondering if we can see one. Usually, like, is locked. Let me see. Some of these we do see. I want to see the final one, which again, no dragons in there. So we're seeing right there Baden, which again, they're running Kren in here instead of Nyla. I wonder if that is not having the hero built out. And then even here, there's no Highborn. So maybe the Highborn or the Draconis overall are starting to make an impact. But again, looking at some of the higher level players, we're not seeing them. There we go. There's Nyla again. Not seeing a lot of utility in a bunch of different game modes. And honestly, it could be just too early that we're not seeing them again kind of built in a bunch of different places. Even there's Braum. I'm not sure why Braun is in there, but that's pretty interesting to see. Now let's take a look at the Nightmare Corridor. Now here we're at 1%, of course, when we get closer to the end. And here, boom, we have a Scarlet right in there. We have still the original version of Baden. We have the Awakened version of Thane in there. We have Baden right there, which again, we're not seeing a lot of the Highborn heroes. I thought we'd see a lot more, but unfortunately we're not. We are seeing the new pet. As you see right there, guys, there is Eris. We are seeing the new pet in a lot of different places, but overall, again, pretty interesting to see where the bosses or where these new heroes are kind of falling in, where they're falling in line, and we're starting to see them, I feel like, again, over the next probably 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to see them utilized a lot more in a bunch of different game modes once we test them, find out exactly where they go. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's game mode. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, thank you guys for watching.